Is Turo worth it in 2024? Yes, it is that time again. You see, every year, around this time of year, I make a video talking about whether or not Turo is worth it. Is Turo worth it? Is it worth starting Turo as a new host? Or is it worth continuing Turo as an existing host? And if so, what are some of the things that you should keep in mind if you want to pursue this side hustle in the coming year? I've been doing this series since 2020, and now it's time to talk about whether or not Turo is worth starting in 2024. But before we get started with that, I need to let you guys know of my Black Friday sale that's going on right now. Many of you know that I've been a Turo host for over 6 years, and I currently have 27 cars in my fleet that generate me between $25,000 and $30,000 in semi-passive income every single month. And if you would like to do the same, then you're in luck, because I have taken my systems, processes, and everything that I know, and I've squeezed it into over 7 hours of course content and put it into my course, the Car Sharing Masterclass. If you're watching this video between November 9th and November 30th, then take action now and use the code BLACKFRIDAY200 to get $200 off the purchase of the Car Sharing Masterclass. This is the biggest sale we'll ever run, and once it's over, it won't be back until next year, November 2024. In the Car Sharing Masterclass, I'll show you everything that you need to know about starting your own Turo side hustle. Everything from LLCs, how to work with insurance and Turo protection packages, what type of cars you should buy, where to find below market value deals on cars, how to set up automated communication methods, and even what to do in the case that your car is in an accident or it's damaged, as well as everything in between. Click the link down in the description below to start making some semi-passive income today. Now, on to the topic of this video, is Turo worth it for 2024? Yes. In fact, I would go as far as to say that it is an adamant yes. Turo is absolutely worth it in 2024, but of course, let me go into more detail and explain why I feel this is the case. Now, for those of you who don't know me, I'm a car sharing host and I have 27 cars in my fleet, 26 of which are listed on Turo. The other one is a converted camper van that we rent out on Outdoorsy and RV Share. I've been growing my fleet since 2017. I have 100% paid off cars that I bought in cash, and I currently have just about 4,500 trips on the Turo platform. I run my fleet a bit differently than a lot of other Turo hosts out there because I don't offer delivery of any kind. I don't do any direct rentals, and I rent out exclusively normal everyday cars. And really, the name of my Turo game comes down to two different things: pricing and utilization. I rent my cars extremely competitively, and I can do this because I buy all of my cars below market value, and I also prioritize accessibility. I keep my cars 100% available to rent, utilizing remote key exchanges, calendar blocks in an extremely efficient process. And truthfully, there is no doubt in my mind that for the majority of US markets, you can absolutely be successful in Turo if you prioritize these two things: utilization and price point. But let's take a look at some of the different markets throughout the United States to really drive home this point. So here we are at Turo, and one of my favorite ways to gauge demand on Turo is to look at cars that are available within the next hour. Remember that in order to set yourself apart from the competition on Turo, having your cars available within a couple of hours notice, having them available 24/7, that's how you're really going to get a ton of rentals and make a lot of money. For example, let's take a look at Raleigh, North Carolina. I'm going to choose the date of 11/7, which is the day I'm recording this, and I'm going to choose the time of 3:30, which is a little bit over a 1 hour advance notice. And you can see here that in the entire Raleigh market, there's only 11 cars available. So you'll see that if we filter out the price to that $10 to $50 price point, which is what I oftentimes talk about, you can see that there are no cars available. Versus if we choose a date that's far out in the future, say 3 months, you can see that there's 200 plus cars available. That means that the majority of these cars are booked out or are unavailable to rent with minimal notice, which tells me that if somebody was to buy an affordable car in this market and make it available 24/7, they would have a lot of success with that. If we look at Madison, Wisconsin, under the same parameters, you can see that there's only 1 car available to rent with a very short notice. We could even change the notice time to be a few hours, and you'll see that while there is an additional car that's available, it's still extremely limited. Again, this is with the filter of $10 to $50 per day implemented. Versus if we look a couple of months in advance, you can see that 28 cars are available. I actually know a number of hosts in the Wisconsin market, and Wisconsin is a really good market for Turo because it doesn't seem as though people have caught on to Turo in Wisconsin as fast as they have in some other states. So if you go into the Wisconsin market, for example, Madison, Milwaukee, even Chicago, there's a pretty good chance that you not only will have a lot of utilization, but you'll also be able to rent your cars out for a premium price. But the problem whenever we look at cars in this manner of how many cars are available versus how many are rented is at what point are there too many cars? Like, at what point would there be too many cars to justify adding another? And so to give you a point of comparison, I want to take a look at the Dallas market because I live in Dallas, that's where I operate out of, and there is no market in the entire United States that I know as well as Dallas. This doesn't even really represent the entire market of Dallas as a whole because there's so many neighboring cities that people will drive to in order to rent a car. For example, this is Dallas, but you also have Arlington, Fort Worth. You have North Dallas in this area that people will also rent cars from. So this really doesn't paint the entire picture, but it does paint a partial picture. And you can see that in this market, there are over 200 cars available. And this is only with $10 to $50 price range. So this isn't even all of the vehicles available, just the cheapest ones. This is in February of next year, so it's a couple of months from now. So this is a pretty true reflection of which cars are listed on Turo. But you can see here that if I filter for a little bit over a 1 hour advance notice, that there are still 100 cars available. That's a lot of vehicles. If we filter this to only make it be a 1-day rental, which a lot of hosts don't want to do, there's still 52 cars available. So there's still 52 different cars to choose from in this price range if you're somebody who's wanting to rent a car. On the surface, seeing this many cars available with only an hour advance notice, 50 cars that are available for 1-day booking within the next hour, that's a lot. But whenever you take into the grand scheme of the Dallas Metroplex or really any major city, it really isn't that much. And even considering the fact that in the Dallas market, you have 50 cars available within the 1 hour notice, my cars are still consistently rented out. In fact, as I record this video, there has been extreme demand with my cars to the point where we're thinking about buying a couple in the next coming weeks just so that we can meet demand needs for the Thanksgiving and Christmas holiday. And our demand has been pretty consistent over the last couple of years. In fact, in preparation for this video, I looked at my utilization rate across my fleet over the last few years, from growing from 10 cars to 15 cars to 26 cars. And over the last year, my utilization has only dropped by 1%. And so despite the fact that I have a lot more cars at my one single location, I have more cars for my team and I to manage, which means that there's a lot more hurdles to jump through, and Turo in general is just significantly more saturated, my utilization has just barely dropped. And that utilization has been consistently about 90% over the years. And I think that this is a real testament to the strength of Turo if you really play the game correctly, which again comes down to prioritizing price and utilization. And if you do this, your cars can and will stay booked out, regardless of your market. Now, whenever it comes to growing with Turo, especially as time has gone on and Turo has become more and more popular, there are always kind of the three main concerns that I hear from newer hosts or people who are interested in joining the platform but they have their own reservations. Turo is oversaturated, Turo is screwing over a host with fees, and there is no money to be made with Turo. So let's address some of these concerns here as well. Number one, Turo is oversaturated. Turo certainly has more people today than it did whenever I joined the platform in 2017. And while I do think that Turo is oversaturated in some markets, for example, Los Angeles, which I think has a notorious reputation of being pretty oversaturated, but as we demonstrated in the walkthrough that I did just a couple of minutes ago, I think that most car markets in the United States are at least a little bit oversaturated with specific types of cars. For example, LA. LA has a pretty notorious reputation of being oversaturated, and it sort of earns that reputation. There are over 200 cars in the $10 to $50 price range in Los Angeles, and many of them are extremely nice. Newer model cars, Broncos, things like that. But even in LA, I think that if you prioritize price and utilization, you'll do better than most hosts. Because if you scroll through Turo, you'll see that a lot of hosts have restricted hours, restricted availability, and they're not available 24/7. For example, early morning or late evening pickups. But you can use this exercise that I just walked you through. I also did a standalone video once where I broke this down step by step. I will include a link to that down in the description below. But you can do this yourself in your own market to really determine what the demand is for your market. If there are a bunch of cars available for a relatively short notice, I'm saying 200 plus, that could possibly be an indicator that your market is a little bit oversaturated. But that's where you need to find specific vehicles within your market that aren't oversaturated. But if your market shows that there's only a couple of cars available, that means that there is a lot of demand. And so while I do think that there is validity that some markets are oversaturated and some types of cars within markets are oversaturated, but as long as you strategically buy your car and prioritize price and utilization, I think that you'll do really well regardless of market conditions. Because while there are a ton of different Turo hosts on the Turo platform, there are also a ton that don't take Turo seriously, aren't available consistently, and certainly aren't available 24/7. Number two, Turo is screwing over their hosts with miscellaneous fees. Fees are always a very contentious topic on Turo. People do not like giving fees to Turo. They don't like whenever Turo changes their fee structure. People get angry with the amount of money that Turo charges. There's a lot of things that make people upset here. And truthfully, my response to this is sort of either accept the Turo fees and move on, or simply don't do Turo. I don't know if it's just because I do really well on Turo, so I don't really think about the Turo fees or if it's a form of Stockholm syndrome, but whenever it comes to Turo fees, I just personally don't really care. The way that I see it is Turo is a great example of a win-win relationship. They make money, I make money, it's all good. And the way that I view fees is that while I am paying Turo a lot of money and the guest pays Turo a lot of money, I do feel as though I'm getting something for that money. For the fees that I pay Turo, I get access to their guests and their platform, their insurance, their customer support, their marketing. There is a ton of different resources that you pay for. And for me personally, that fee and that cost associated with that is well worth it. And I just think that whenever we talk about third-party platforms, Turo included, but this certainly isn't exclusive to Turo, the fees are always going to be a portion of the equation. So you either need to get used to it or you just have to find something new to do that doesn't include a third-party platform or fees of any kind. But for the most part, regardless of what third-party platform you're using, they're going to take fees of some kind. It's just the reality of this type of business model. So I don't really see the point of getting upset about it, and I certainly don't see it as a con of joining Turo. It's just a part of the game. And number 3, there is no money to be made with Turo. Like any business, if you run it incorrectly, you can absolutely lose money with Turo. But if you run the business correctly, there's also a lot of money to be made with Turo. This topic comes up a lot, and truthfully, I never really know how to address it because I've made a bunch of videos talking about the finances associated with the Turo fleet. I've talked about how much my fleet makes, how much profit it makes, how much it costs. I've talked about the finances and economics of the average fleet, that I don't really know how else to drive home the point that Turo is in fact profitable. And there are still a lot of people that are very skeptical of the Turo business model, and they think that I, as well as other Turo hosts, are lying. And you know what? I get it. There are a lot of fake gurus out there, and nowadays you just really don't know who you can trust and who's being honest. But when it comes down to Turo and figuring out whether or not this is actually a viable, profitable business model, my number one piece of advice would be to simply do the math. Do the math for the car that you want to buy. Not all cars are worth it for Turo. Depending on the type of car, the purchase price, the monthly upkeep, there are situations where a specific type of car just simply doesn't make sense and it probably wouldn't be profitable. But in the world of normal, low to mid-tier economical cars, Turo is absolutely profitable. But don't take my word for it. I encourage you to crunch the numbers yourself. And I will include some resources down in the description below guiding you on how you can do this yourself. Truthfully, I think at the end of the day, there is no doubt that Turo is worth starting, growing, and continuing in 2024. There are many hosts that I know throughout the country, many of which are part of the Car Sharing Masterclass, that started Turo in 2023, have done exceptionally well, and plan to continue to grow in 2024, some of which have even quit their jobs to do this full time. And I also know many hosts, myself included, that started years ago on Turo and plan to continue to grow in 2024. The point is, even today, there is still money to be made with Turo in 2024, and I believe that that is a fact. Remember that we are running our Black Friday sale until November 30th. You can use the code BlackFriday200 for $200 off. The link is going to be down in the description below. But like always, you guys, I hope that you enjoyed this video. If you have any questions, comments, if you have anything to add, I would love to hear it, so make sure to leave a comment down below. And while you guys are at it, make sure to hit the like button, hit that subscribe button, and hit the notification bell, and I will see you guys in the next video.